This conference will
Okay.
now be recorded.
All right. Hi, everybody. This is Forgiveness Tuesday, and it's at 8 p.m. And this is called Forgiveness Tuesday because it is a remote session with a volunteer and an EPT practitioner. EPT stands for Emotional Polarity Technique. EPT is a completely different approach in emotional health care. It's not like anything else that you've seen. We basically identify the unresolved conflict in a person's life that's causing them difficulty in their life now and keeping them from moving forward or having good health or being happy. And we resolve that conflict using the science and art of forgiveness. So that's why we call this Forgiveness Tuesday. We also have Forgiveness Wednesday. Tomorrow we'll be doing this again at 1:30. And on Friday we have Forgiveness Friday, and it's at 1 o'clock. So this is number 15 of the sessions that we have given away. We also repost it on Facebook on the EPT Works Facebook page. So if you want to watch a recording of it, that's another place you could check it out if you don't want to be live. If you're interested in being a person who gets a free session, please just let somebody know in the comments if it's in Facebook, or email us and we'll get you on the list, and we'll set it up so that you can be a person who is getting a free session of EPT, as long as we'll be doing it. So far, I'm really loving it. I love the opportunity to be able to do this and help people to see what forgiveness can do and what it looks like when you model it with identifying an unresolved conflict in the hope of resolving that conflict, no matter when that conflict happened. So I use, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be using magnets, and these are my magnets. So, and Rob will be using magnets. And then, because I'm going to be working with Rob, yep. And the other thing I want to tell you is, I've been doing energy work a long time, and I truly believe that no matter what energy work you do and how good you are at it, when I truly believe that when you do energy work at a distance, that it takes a toll on the practitioner's health. Not something that's going to like put you out and make you sick the next day, but over time, it will not be good for you if you're doing a lot of it. So because of that, I use something to give my energy a boost. It's called an Infratonic 9. It's from a company called Sound Vitality. And I use that on my body while I'm doing a session. So I'm kind of going to position that really on my lower abdomen a little bit. So it's in my belly. And the reason I do that is to help ground and balance and strengthen and shore up my own energy system. You know, in the world of 5G, not to mention the fact that just even before 5G, that when you're sitting and doing remote work on a cell phone or just on a computer, you're exposing yourself to a lot of disruptive EMFs. And, you know, take precautions. So anyway, so that's the stuff you need to know. And I'm going to put, so this records, I'm going to put active cameras up. And hi, Rob. This is Rob Scott.
Hello.
And so what do you want to work on tonight, Rob?
Time management.
Whoa. All right.
Yep.
Time management or procrastination, or really time management?
Time management. Procrastination, I have issues with, but the core of it is just time management. And I think it stems from my father and his time management skills, or lack thereof. And
so you
I
feel
know
like
that,
you lack time management?
yes,
How does it look in your life?
it looks like I will write out a schedule, a detailed schedule of what I want my day to look like, and then I don't follow it at all, or maybe I follow half of it, and it just is an overwhelming, depressing concept to me.
So, so it's you create a task time, a time boundaried task list,
Right.
and then at the end of the day, you haven't gotten it done.
Yes, or very little of it, a very small portion of it.
So, oh, really? Only a small portion? So does
Mhm.
it go to the next day?
Yes, sometimes.
So how long does it take you to make the list?
To make a list takes me 30 minutes to an hour. It just
Oh,
the
wow,
con.
that's a big list.
Oh, I'm a perfectionist and try to get everything done and think I can do everything in a very small window. And I realize that I'm not capable of doing that. Uh, but it's still in the back of my mind, I believe I should be able to, because when I was a teenager in high school, I was, you know, working a job for 20 hours, doing martial arts, doing AP courses, you know, doing it all, and was able to get everything done. But I haven't
So
been
it's only been recently.
since college. I mean, when I got out of college, I felt free from uh, the time management that I had to do. And uh, one of the things with my dad was he was constantly working. Like he'd work, get up at 4 or 5 o'clock, go to work, and when he got home, he continued to work. And it's something that I never really liked about work and his time management. So,
That he constantly worked.
yeah,
All right. So so when you were in college, it was good.
it was decent. Not as it wasn't as structured as when I was in high school, because high school had this, major structure. In college, I had a little bit more freedom, so my time management was a little more lax, but I made sure that I made time to do all my assignments and get everything done.
All right. Okay. So it was really after that. All right. So on what I'm going to do is, oh, I was going to ask you, how do you want it to be?
I want to I want it to be structured in such a way that it's not I don't feel like I'm a slave to my job, uh, and I have the proper priorities. You know, God,
Oh,
family, self-care, and then work. Am I not coming through?
no, no, I had stuff on my screen.
Okay.
So you want it structured. Like
hmm
how would you know that you did it well because you finished the task?
I made progress, at least made progress on the task and finished it. If it's a small task, if it's a large task that I know will take maybe more than one day, um, having measured uh, measurements, for me to be able to say, okay, I did what I needed to do today. Tomorrow I'll pick up where I left off, that kind of stuff.
Because I'm kind of wondering, like in high school and college, somebody else kind of determined what meant you did it right.
Right.
So now you're the one who has to determine that if you
hmm
met the what you need to meet. That's why I
Right.
was asking. So you're saying progress, but if you just do a little bit, that's not enough.
Not, I guess, if I guess I have a hard time defining what progress points really are for
Yeah.
myself, because it's been dictated to me for so much of my life.
So yeah, that's good to know. So I'm going to write here, what do I want? I want a structured progress. But I don't really know exactly how to define that.
Yeah. Uh,
Not sure how to define. Okay. All right. So I'm just looking at like what I want to do as an entry point. So I'm going to just go, because we kind of threw a lot of this stuff up about, in high school it was okay. College, it was better than it is now. But then after college, it kind of felt like it just got, and my dad was always working. So I didn't really like the way he did stuff. I would like structured progress, but I'm not sure how I would define that on a daily basis,
yeah.
exactly what that would look like.
I don't think I've ever seen a healthy example of that.
All right, all right. You mean where somebody is the one who's in charge of their own healthy progress
Hmm.
or structured progress? Because in high school, you weren't in charge of it, but you got it done.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're just going to call all of this in an umbrella of time management, because we've got your brain like bringing files up anyway, just talking about it. And I'm going to start by, on a scale of 1 to 10, your level of distress with your time management is 6, 7, 10. So it's a 10. So you already don't feel good about this when you have to think about that. So what about subjective units of elation? Do you have elation? Um, yeah, that's only a 2. I thought that might have been high, like the one we did today, but it wasn't. It's a 2. Um, so you don't actually feel really good, and there's not like that, you don't get some kind of a benefit out of having this loosey-goosey time management. That's all that means.
Mhm.
So what is the stage of healing you're in? Oh, yay, anger, stage 2. And for
Really?
those people, yeah, for those people who are watching, so we always muscle test what stage of healing a person is in. So we have 7 stages of healing. There is denial. Everybody has time issue problems. There is anger. Anger is, how come I'm having a struggle here and other people seem to do it just fine? And then there's bargain. Okay, I will make my list. I will meticulously spend 30 minutes to an hour every day making my list, and then I won't get it done and I'll be back to anger. So there's bargain. There is next is stage 4 is depression, or where I get stuck, where no matter what I do, it just feels like I never seem to be able to accomplish what I need to do in a reasonable amount of time. And then I'm just depressed, and then I get angry again. So this is where he's probably been going from anger, bargain, depression, and in a circle, just bouncing off that wall and never really getting over what is it that I get stuck at? Like, what internally, what is the unresolved conflict that keeps me from really developing myself enough to create my own plan of time management that works? Yeah, so that's where
Yeah.
we want to get you. So, and then I'll go ahead for the people watching. Let's see. After stage 4 is stage 5. That's acceptance, that says maybe my time management isn't perfect, but it's definitely progressed and it's coming a long way. And I'm starting to feel like it's possible for me to do this and to get it done well, and maybe even help other people who need to do this. And then after acceptance is light emerging, where things really start to fall together and you just become much more of an expert about what it is that you wanted to improve in your life. And then after that is creation of new life, where time management no longer holds itself out as a problem that prevents me from getting done what I need to get done, because it's just not a problem anymore. So that's where you would head in those stages of healing. So I'm going
Mhm.
to ask if you can, for time management, can you show up? Can you pay attention? Can you tell the truth? Can you let go? Yay! Those are all strong.
Sweet.
So that's good. That would just tell us, what we might work into a statement. If you couldn't show up, if you couldn't pay attention, if you couldn't let go, then we know some of the statements might need to revolve around including those words into the statements. So that's what we're asking about there. All right, so we're gonna say how many issues. So we just asked the body categorically, how many issues do we need to do? Oh, there's Whitney. Hi, Whitney. She's doing that robe life. All right, so how many issues do we need to move you out of anger to a higher stage of healing? Hopefully we can get you over the hump today. So we're gonna say anger. So I get 2 issues. So the first issue, family, current, self, grief, my grief. It's my grief with myself. Conception of birth, birth 5, 5 to 10, age 6. So the earlier time, and I only went right to an earlier time because we kind of talked about what he felt about the grief, like what he doesn't like about his time management. But he also mentioned his dad and how his dad worked and managed time. And so I went ahead and thought, let's go back to an original event. So it's age 6, my grief. I feel grief with friend, family, with dad. So is that because he works all the time?
Yeah, at that stage, he was out in the field more with doing water sample tests and uh, yeah, he. I'm I'm wondering if he had checked out, about family life at that point, because this.
You mean he was checked, like he wasn't available?
I'm guessing so. Remember, I don't have a whole lot of memories from the past, but um, I remember this was 6. I was in readiness at this point. This was also when I was first diagnosed with epilepsy, and uh, mom mom was taking me to the doctor all the time. Uh, Dad was not in the picture very much, as far as I remember.
Right,
Uh,
as far as you can remember.
yeah.
So like when you think back and you think about what did your bedroom look like when you were 6, can you remember?
Uh, Shared a room with my brother. I was in the top bunk, um, and we had a TV to play video games with, I think, and it was a little bit of a mess, but uh,
Did you hang out in your room a lot?
I think so. Yeah, at that point there weren't too many kids, running around playing uh, outside, so yeah, all the other kids were 4 years old or younger. So
What about
yeah, I was in
school? Were you in first
school.
grade?
No, I was in between kindergarten and first grade, a grade called readiness, which I think it was done away with, but it was for those of us who were slower.
So you were in the class that needed a little bit of extra help.
Right. A little bit of
Did you
time
know
to.
that? I mean,
Yes.
at the time, did you know, oh, I'm in the slower class?
Yeah, because all of us were kind of in in that class together, and we knew that we were in readiness because we weren't ready for first grade. That was the explanation that was given to us as kids.
Okay. All right. Well, that's kind of interesting because you had just begun school
Hmm.
and they were probably organizing and doing all your time management for you.
Yep. And it was in readiness that, I started having uh, seizures where my teacher would be at the front of the room giving, her lesson, and then all of a sudden she's magically teleported to the back of the room, and I uh, would fall asleep thereafter. Uh, that's just how.
Where you just had like a distortion neurologically, visual distortion.
Oh, like the synapses would misfire, and then when they reconnected, it would cause exhaustion in my body. And so she would be in the front, and then she would be in the back. Yeah.
All right. So, all right. So I just kind of wanted to I'm just getting your brain to kind of remember what it does remember. So
Mhm.
you remembered your bedroom. You remembered you hung out in your bedroom a lot. Here, I'm surprised that you had a seizure disorder and they kept you on the top bunk.
Uh, it took them
No.
a while to figure it out, because at first they're like, "What do you mean your teacher's teleporting?" I'm like, "She's teleporting." And then we went through several different medications. I found out about my medical allergies, and then I ended up on an experimental drug uh, eventually that brought me back to life. One of the things that my mom, yeah, told me was when I started having seizures, I was like a zombie. There was no life in me.
Did this
Yeah,
happen at home and at school?
believe so. Primarily at school, from what I remember. Uh,
So if
there,
you were home for the summer, did you have less seizures?
I want to say that's accurate. I wasn't having them, on a frequent basis. They were
Yeah.
very sporadic. It was the mildest form of epilepsy that's out there, and I fortunately was able to grow out of it. That's a blessing from
Well,
God.
oh yeah. Well, and part of me wonders it could have correlated with some vaccination reaction. Nobody would ever call that out. And that would be something that you could potentially grow out of,
Hmm.
um, because it could have been a mild vaccination, because vaccinations tend to disrupt the central nervous system, your brain.
Hmm.
So for
Oh,
you, you got to see your teacher teleported.
yeah. Apparently, it was really cool.
Yeah. All right. So we're back to, we've got some details. So my grief with dad at age 6, and is it because he works all the time? No. I
Yeah.
wanted it to be that. Is it
Yeah.
my grief with dad because he's not here when I need him? No. So was it possible that he didn't, did you see him being unkind to your mom?
I think so. There's also a time when my mom was going to counseling a lot. Uh,
During that age 6?
I believe so, because it was age 8 that they announced when they were getting a divorce. So
So they were struggling.
they were struggling. I remember playing a lot in the church auditorium in the dark
Oh my.
while my mom was doing counseling stuff. Yeah,
All right.
lots of fun.
Okay. So my grief is this, yeah, this is the time when your mom was having counseling. So it means that even though you can't remember a lot about what was going on, it was something was going on because she went to counseling. You
Yeah.
remember her going to counseling. So my grief with dad because um he's he doesn't love mom works. He doesn't love mom. He doesn't want to be around mom. No. It's like he doesn't love mom. And it's mom is unloved.
His
So
mom is
from your
unloved.
perception, she's the one who's in crisis. He's doing his regular thing.
Hmm.
So she has to go to counseling because she's got to go and get help. So
Hmm.
there's this grief because maybe because I feel like dad's causing this. Yeah, that works. So even
Okay.
though you don't remember it, the
Hmm.
other thing is it's really possible that you were so like you had such a lack of, you're 6 years old, you don't have a way of reconciling what's going on and the
Yeah.
potential that you could lose your whole family, which you really love. And you don't even know what that even looks like or how that's going to be. So that may account for, where you're neurologically or emotionally like blacking out
Hmm.
and feeling exhausted because you just can't, it's too much.
Hmm. Yeah.
And
No.
and the other thing is, I'm thinking it's too much, and you're like you're a person who naturally takes responsibility. So you're 6 years old and you're feeling the weight of responsibility for this potential loss of your whole family. And from your perspective, all you can see is, I feel grief about dad because he doesn't love mom.
Yeah.
And if he just loved mom, if he just stopped the working thing and loved mom, then I wouldn't have to feel like something is going to happen and I don't even know what it is.
Yeah. That makes
So, I
sense.
mean, I think that you as a kid at this point were under this feeling of something's going to happen that's not good, but I don't know what it is.
Hmm.
And nobody's telling me. But every day, because she's not doing well, I'm like afraid that there's something that's going to happen. So then things happen to you. You just check out, you black out.
Hmm.
So my grief with dad, and the one that tests is because he doesn't love mom. I mean, that's probably a loose way of saying it
Yeah.
because he doesn't
And
love mom.
he had a lot of anger and rage. Uh, like I remember him. I don't know if this was
Yeah.
at that age, but I remember him coming in and clamping my mouth shut because I was talking back to him, or he did that to my brother and that kind of stuff. There's
Was that around
definitely,
that age too? Had you
yeah.
seen that rage at that point?
Hmm.
So my grief with dad because he doesn't love mom. And yeah, okay, so we're gonna start with that because he doesn't love mom. That's pretty basic.
Okay.
Um, and let's see, phase one, phase two. So you're in phase two. So the way you're coping is, I'm just going to check out because it's too hard. And I'm
Yep.
gonna, and I haven't done, we're gonna do congruency right now before we start. I mean, before we get this other. Um, so yeah, my grief with dad, and this is interesting because this is an area you don't even remember. I had to
Yeah.
muscle test. I thought it was gonna be the he's never around and all it. No.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where I was going too.
So breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, and breathe in, breathe out. And then, do the front and the back and lift skyward, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, and breathe in, breathe out. All right. So that's to help congruency of the two of us and just his central nervous system balancing it. So this is my grief with dad at age 6 because he doesn't love mom. And we're going to check. All right, I'm going to take my magnets out of their little containers. All right, so think about the grief with dad and red over here. And yeah, so you're going to put red over the lung
Hmm.
and red south pole over the frontal, the forehead. And while you're holding that, you want to squeeze your head together.
Okay.
And then on inhalation, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, and breathe in, breathe out. So this is my grief with dad because he doesn't love mom. Is there another emotion? Yes. So now I'm going to check. It just says that in this memory, there's another emotion besides grief about dad not loving mom. So it's like, yeah, anguish. There's anguish, grief, and anguish. I'm going to write that down. So anguish is really, really deep grief. So now we're going to try, think about the anguish you felt. So this means you are beyond, like, I don't know the answer to this and it's weighing on me, but I'm waiting for the shoe to drop. I don't know what's going to happen. So this
Mhm.
is red again on the lung and red on the forehead, or its south pole is red. And then breathe in as you squeeze. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. And breathe in. Breathe out. So for those of you watching, the details of exactly what we're doing with these magnets, you can find it in described and explained in The Forgiveness Doctor, which is a book I wrote about EPT. And you can find that on Amazon.com. It's
Really
called The
good.
Forgiveness Doctor by Dr. Annette Cargioli. That's me. All right, so if you're wondering, because I'd rather focus on Rob at this point than describe everything. So, all right, so anguish, grief, any other emotions? Yes. Gosh. Okay, so I'm going to check things again. Okay, this time it was strong on heart. So is it lost and vulnerable, abandoned? What else is there? Lost and vulnerable, abandoned. Help me here. What other? I don't have my card.
Let me get my
Lost and
cards.
vulnerable, abandoned. I want to say frightfully overjoyed. Nope.
Nope. Deserted, insecure,
No.
unrequited love.
Deserted. All
Deserted.
right. Deserted. Yeah, I don't get that one very often. So I needed the card to tell me which one it was. Okay, so it's deserted. So mom felt deserted, dad felt deserted, I felt deserted. So I felt deserted. So now I'm deserting myself by checking out. So let's see, deserted, deserted. Now this one is North Pole over the heart and North Pole over the forehead. And then breathe in as you squeeze the head. And breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. And breathe in. Breathe out. All right. And then are there any other emotions? No. So the three emotions are deserted, anguish, and grief. And because my dad doesn't love mom, like it's occurring to me, she doesn't feel good. She's going to a counselor and dad just leaves all the time. And I don't know what's going to happen. Like
Yeah.
you're kind of like in this state of, I don't know what's going to happen. And so I think that probably did have something to do with the seizures. Um, and then is it phase one, phase two? All right, so we're gonna do phase two. If you got a baseball hat, you can hold those magnets over there. Oh, perfect, perfect. So phase two trauma means that both sides of his brain, he's basically in a functional dissociative state. And the way I would describe that is when you drive from point A to point B and you can't remember if you passed a Starbucks, much less that you probably passed 3 Starbucks. So that would be a functional dissociative state where you're just going on automatic based on the neural pathways that you already have built in there that are automatic. So what we do is, because the brain in MRI, based on Bessel van der Kolk's book, when the body says no, he talks about trauma. He says that brain is basically going, it's turning off. It has very little circulation. It's like no activity. It slows down. So when we put red magnets over the right and left hemisphere, we're actually interfering with the brain's natural, and I want to say compulsive behavior to check out when we're going to talk about something at age 6 that the brain doesn't want to deal with, because at age 6 it was like really tough. It was just like the brain made this decision. I can't handle it. So check him out. So, but he still wrote a story on it, and he wrote a conflict. So the conflict is my dad doesn't love my mom. And as a 6-year-old, that's what his brain and him deep down reasoned. And the idea being that I have to get my dad to love my mom before I can come back in my body and everything will be okay. That's the thing that's going to solve it, even though he has no power to make his dad love his mom.
Right.
So, all right. So it's phase 2, and I'm gonna have you rub these points as well, the fear release points right here under the clavicle. And I need you to say, I forgive myself for believing
I forgive myself for believing
that I can't love my dad
that I can't love my dad
or be like my dad
or be like my dad
without feeling anguish and grief
without feeling anguish and grief
and feeling deserted
and feeling deserted
because my dad doesn't love mom when I'm 6.
because my dad doesn't love mom when I'm 6.
And I don't know what that means for me.
And I don't know what that means for me.
And then breathe. I forgive my dad
I forgive my dad
for doing and saying things
for doing insane things
that made me believe
that made me believe
that he didn't love my mom
that he didn't love my mom
and that it was hurting her
and that it was hurting her
and me and my family.
and me and my family.
And then breathe. I forgive myself for believing
I forgive myself for believing
that I'm right about this,
that I'm right about this,
that he doesn't love my mom,
that he doesn't love my mom,
and until he loves my mom,
and until he loves my mom,
I will have to disassociate
I will have to disassociate
because it's too stressful not knowing what's going to happen.
It's because it's too stressful not knowing what's going to happen.
And then breathe. I'm smiling because I'm thinking about getting that task list done. It's too stressful not knowing if it's going to happen or not.
Mm-hmm. That's where my thoughts are.
I know. It's like the dots are going, yep. Oh my. Okay. So I give my dad permission to forgive me
I give my dad permission to forgive me
for blaming him
for blaming him
for the stress I felt as a 6-year-old,
for the stress I felt as a 6-year-old,
the grief and anguish
the grief and anguish
and desertion
and desertion,
because his behavior
because his behavior
and mom's responses
and mom's responses
made me feel like he didn't love her.
made me feel like he didn't love her.
And then breathe. I forgive myself for believing
I forgive myself for believing
that my mom would have never gone to therapy
my mom would never have gone to therapy
and our family would have been okay
and our family would have been okay
if my dad could have convinced my mom he loved her.
my dad could have convinced my mom he loved her.
And then breathe. I forgive my dad
Forgive my dad
for not doing something,
for not doing something,
for having for being really good at getting things done,
for being really good at getting things done,
but then not telling my mom that she's lovable.
and then not telling my mom she's lovable.
And then breathe. I forgive myself for believing
forgive myself for believing
that I can't get things done
I can't get things done
uh, until I make sure my romantic partner knows she is loved.
until I make sure my romantic partner knows she's loved.
And then breathe. I forgive myself for believing I can't get things done
I forgive myself for believing I can't get things done
without feeling the desertion
without feeling the desertion,
and anguish and grief
anguish, and grief
that I felt at age 6
I felt at age 6
when my dad got everything done,
when my dad got everything done,
but the family was falling apart.
but the family was falling apart.
And I didn't know what was going to happen.
I didn't know what was going to happen.
And I thought the only thing that could fix it
And I thought the only thing that could fix it
is if my dad would just love my mom.
that my dad would just love my mom.
And then breathe. I forgive myself for believing
Forgive myself for believing
that I can't get things done
that I can't get things done
without feeling the grief and anguish and desertion.
without feeling the grief and anguish and desertion.
And then responding to that by checking out,
And responding to that by checking out
because I just want my dad to love my mom.
because I just want my dad to love my mom.
I just want that to happen
I just want that to happen
so that I can get things done too.
so I can get things done too.
And then breathe. Oh, that's feeling better. So, I forgive myself
I forgive myself
for believing
for believing
that I still need to feel anger
I still need to feel anger
when I don't get things done
when I don't get things done
so that I can avoid
so that I can avoid
this memory at age 6
this memory at age 6
where I have anguish, grief, and I'm deserted.
where I have anguish, grief, and I'm deserted.
And I can't, yeah, and I don't know what's going to happen.
And I don't know what's going to happen.
I'm just overwhelmed by what I can't control
I am just overwhelmed by what I can't control.
at age 6.
Age
So,
6.
and then breathe. I forgive myself for believing
I forgive myself for believing
that I need to create, what do I want to say? I need to create my task list or I need to struggle with time management
I need to I forgive myself for believing I need to struggle with time management
so that
so that
I can be angry
so I can be angry
and not have to feel
and not have to feel
the overwhelm of what I couldn't control at age 6.
the overwhelming feelings of what I can control at age 6.
And then breathe. Yeah. I forgive myself for believing
I forgive myself for believing
the only reason I struggle with management
the only reason I struggle with time management
is so that I have a reason, so that I can feel really angry,
so that I can feel really angry,
and that will interfere
and that will interfere
with the feeling of overwhelm and the unknown.
It'll interfere with the feelings of overwhelm, the unknown, limbo.
From age 6,
6.
where with things I couldn't control.
Things I couldn't control.
And then breathe. I forgive myself for believing
I forgive myself for believing
that I still have to feel resistant and angry
that I still have to feel resistant and angry
with my own time management
with my own time management
as a tool
as a tool
to solve
to solve
the overwhelm
the overwhelm
and grief and anguish and desertion
and grief and anguish and desertion
and what was unknown
that was unknown
uh, when I was 6 years old
I was 6 years old.
with things I couldn't control.
Things I couldn't control. I didn't
And then breathe. I say yes
say yes
to this trauma of overwhelm
to this trauma of overwhelm
and exhaustion with what is unknown,
and exhaustion with what is unknown,
with things I can't control at age 6.
things I can't control at age 6.
And I call up this trauma of overwhelm and unknown
I call it this trauma of overwhelm and unknown.
that I internalized
I internalized
because I knew my dad wasn't going to love my mom.
because I knew my dad wasn't going to love my mom.
And I didn't know how to change that.
I didn't know how to change that.
And that left me overwhelmed with what's going to happen.
And that left me overwhelmed with what's going to happen.
I say yes to all of this trauma of the unknown
I say yes to all this trauma of the unknown
with people I loved at age 6
with people I liked at age 6,
and a family I loved.
the family that I loved.
And I call it up,
Call it up,
the energy of this trauma of the unknown,
this energy of this trauma of the unknown.
and I release it
I release it.
to God's love and mercy.
God's love and mercy.
And then breathe. I give my 6-year-old self permission
Give my 6-year-old self permission
to accept.
to accept
I understand how you feel.
and understand how you feel.
It was really hard not knowing what was going to happen.
It was really hard not knowing what was going to happen.
And really believing that my dad didn't love my mom.
And really believing that my dad didn't love my mom.
Yeah, that was hard.
That was hard. It was really hard.
And it broke my heart.
It broke my heart.
I say yes
I say yes
to this trauma
to this trauma
of recognizing my dad didn't care for my mom like I did.
recognizing my dad did not care for my mom as I did.
And the overwhelm of not knowing what that meant
And the overwhelm of not knowing what that meant
for my life and future
for my life and future
and my family.
and my family.
I say yes to the overwhelm,
I say yes to the overwhelm,
the grief,
the grief,
the anguish,
the anguish,
the broken heart,
the broken heart,
and the desertion I felt.
the desertion I felt.
And I call it all up
I call it all up.
and I release it
I release it.
from my body, mind, and spirit
My body, mind, and spirit.
to God's love and mercy.
God's love and mercy.
And then breathe. I forgive my 6-year-old self
I forgive my 6-year-old self
for believing
for believing
that I can't go on
that I can't go on
knowing my dad doesn't care for my mom like I do.
knowing my dad doesn't care for my mom like I do.
And then breathe. I forgive myself
Forgive myself
for throwing away my heart
for throwing away my heart
because it was too hard to bear that my dad didn't love my mom.
because it was too hard to bear. My dad did not love my
And I ask God
mom. I ask God
to return my broken heart,
to return my broken heart,
fully restored and healed.
fully restored to you.
And then breathe. Oh, that feels so good. Without this fragmented heart,
Without this fragmented heart,
I can commit to what I feel passionate about.
I can commit to what I feel passionate about.
And I can feel the passion
And I can feel the passion.
and I can commit to what it takes
And I can commit to what it takes
out of the energy of this passion for what I love,
out of this energy, this passion for what I love,
even though
even though
it nearly destroyed me knowing my dad didn't care for my mom.
it nearly destroyed me knowing my dad didn't care.
My heart has been restored by God
My heart has been restored by God
so that I can step into a place of passion in my life.
that I can step into a place of passion in my life.
And time management
Time management
can be used to grow my passion
can be used to grow my passion,
and bring me fulfillment in my heart
and bring me fulfillment in my heart.
and glory to God,
Glory to God.
instead of using time management as a tool
Instead of using time management as a tool,
that just makes me angry,
it just makes me angry.
so that I don't have to face the broken heart of finding out my dad didn't love my mom.
But I don't have to face the
Broken heart
broken heart
of
that
finding out,
that my dad didn't love my mom.
yeah, and then breathe. Oh, this is rolling, rolling, rolling.
A lot of dots connecting.
Huh?
A lot of dots connecting.
It feels great.
Yeah.
It feels so much better. And if those of you, I didn't find anger on his body, but I will say, hey, you can pull these out. The reason I used anger is because he mentioned his dad got angry and he was in the state of anger and he had this resistance about the whole concept of time management that just would put him in this state of anger. And the state of anger was really a tool to put a wall up between him and don't ever let yourself know that your little heart broke because you realized he doesn't care for her. And it's possible your mom looked right at you and said, he doesn't love me. You don't even remember. That may be how you found out. We don't know. Or you just looked and you thought, she's so hurt. He must have done something.
Yeah.
That she was so wounded and broken that you just blamed him, even if he did anything or not. So there's no knowing except that the realization that my dad doesn't love my mom was what flipped you out as a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
Like, I can't deal with this. I just want them to love each other. I want him to love her.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
I was in limbo. That's the feeling that as we were going through everything, just the state of uncertainty. in limbo.
Yes, which is traumatic for a child who deeply loves their parents. When they see the parents going through something really hard, how they respond to that. Your response was, I'm just going to go into that functional disassociation. And then that was probably affecting that whole epilepsy stuff. The epilepsy stuff would also serve to try to bring your parents together.
Yeah.
Just like a teenager who does drugs to get the parents to come together who are separated. It's like a unconscious last ditch effort to pull the family back together with something that draws them in to focus on you.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that was probably what was going on. All right, being the healer that you are, even then. So I'm going to ask subjective units of distress on time management. It was originally a 10. It's a 0. 0. Yay! 10 to a 0. When you think about time management, or how do you feel? Do you have lots of swirling ideas, or is it just time management?
It's just time management. It's like, okay, I can actually get something done, and I can write out goals and work my way back on how to accomplish them, and I don't feel any stress about that.
How about like being passionate?
Yeah, no, with
Those two things were related.
with EPT or anything, even the financial world stuff. Like, I don't feel this anxiety, this distress concerning it. It's like, okay, I can do this. I just
Incredible. That is so good. So good. I wish we would have had like lots of little something in the chat box, but you will have the video. If you need to go through the video and like remind yourself to come down in your body, because I think that you would spend a lot of time on the task list because the passion was there. But when you turned it into a task list, you had to like, it was like actually validating you're passionate. So you had to check out because it meant my heart is broken. And I'm going to tell you, when you're making that task list, here's what I would say to myself if I were you. I would say, Rob, when you were 6 years old, it broke your heart that you realized deep in your soul your dad didn't love your mom, and you never, as a 6-year-old, imagined that would ever happen with people that you loved like that, and you had no one to talk to about it. And for you to say that to yourself and say, the reason I can't do this time management thing is because my heart got broken when I realized my dad didn't love my mom, because that was devastating for me at age 6. But it's all okay now. It's okay. It's okay.
it is okay.
So you just kind of like, when you ask yourself, why am I not getting this done? And you go, oh, I'm angry because my brain thinks I can't handle that thought. So I'm just going to rub that thought in my face. It's because I don't want to think about my dad not loving my mom when I was only 6 years old. And that brought up all this unknown about what I can't control.
Yeah.
So it's beautiful. And I think about how the unknown that you can't control has worked its way into your task list.
Yeah. That's been a big thing.
Yes, absolutely. So let's see. I'm gonna open this up. I'm gonna turn off the recording so that, there we go.